Hello, welcome to الكرامة news channel. It is 9 p.m. our time for top stories, and we start with latest developments in Libya. Spokesman for the General Command of Armed Forces, Major Mohammed Hijazi, said that armed forces achieved progress in Boatni district, supported by air cover and intense airstrikes on positions of terrorist militias. In the meantime, Hijazi stressed that during the previous 48 hours, Air Force managed to destroy 4 bulldozers on the coast of Benghazi, coming from western Libya and loaded with weapons and terrorists. Al-Gala Hospital received a martyr and 8 wounded people of the armed forces following 2 days of fighting in the city of Benghazi. A medical source said that hospital received 5 wounded people last Thursday from Lathia and the Sabri districts, while it received the body of Martyr Islam Naji al-Warfali and 3 wounded people on Friday from Sabri district in Benghazi. A fire broke out in a fuel station in the Wara city, where the fire caused material damage in the station. The sources confirmed the burning of some cars that were located near the station as a result of extension of fire due to fuel leakage outside the station, without any reported casualties. The sources noted that the fire happened as a result of fuel leak from one of the existing ground station reservoir to the servers, following infiltration of rainwater to the tanks that were not tightly closed. UN envoy to Libya Bernardino Leon said that the participants in New York meeting on Libyan crisis urged the Libyan parties to conclude the dialogue, sign the agreement and form a national unity government. Leon added that the participants in the meeting, which brought together ministers of major and Arab countries, as well as the UN Secretary General, have expressed their strong support of the final version of the Libyan political agreement, warning those who try to hinder or undermine the political agreement of putting themselves outside the political and international legitimacy framework. Otherwise, they will be held accountable for consequences. UAE Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan expressed in his speech before the General Assembly of the United Nations his country's concern about the situation in Libya. Bin Zayed noted that the situation in Libya is considered as a serious threat to the region, calling for lifting the embargo imposed on importing arms for the Arab Libyan armed forces to enable them to fight against terrorist Daesh group and other terrorist groups in the country. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon called on all Libyan parties to put aside their differences and support the peace plan draft. Ki-moon noted during a high-level meeting in Libya held on sidelines of general meetings of General Assembly that the UN document helped Libya to overcome the chaos and achieve progress toward the establishment of a clear legal framework for a stable and democratic state. Moreover, he noted that any agreement does not add to perfection. Parliamentary committee responsible for following out the emergency situation called on the interim government to take necessary measures to address the Egyptian government on recent decision, which states that Libyan citizens shouldn't be permitted to enter except for those who were born in Tobruk, Bir Ashab and Emsaid municipalities. The head of Parliament's emergency committee, Sulaiman Sweka, said that the commission sent a letter to the interim government demanding to take appropriate actions on this issue and communicate with the Egyptian government to find out the reasons for this action. And now my audience will transfer to the Arab arena, especially in Yemen. Yemeni troops and Gulf Arab forces today seize control of Al-Arabian side of strategic Bab el-Mandeb Strait linking to Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden from Houthi fighters. A spokesman for the Gulf Pact government said 6 months of war in Yemen has raised fears for security of oil supplies through Bab el-Mandeb, a main thoroughfare for vessels heading for United States or Europe from Asia or the Gulf. Its western shore is controlled by Djibouti and Eritrea. Residents on the Yemeni side of Bab el-Mandeb reported airstrikes and shelling by warships in support of a ground thrust, but could immediately confirm the Houthi had lost the eastern shore of the strait. The Saudi-led Arab coalition intervened in the war in March to try to restore Yemen's government after it was forced into exile by the Houthis. And now to the Palestinian crisis. Palestinians in the West Bank city of Ramallah cheered for the rising of Palestine flag for the first time at the United Nations UN headquarters in New York. Some say that their leader should continue to win more rights for the country. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said at the UN Assembly that Palestine is no longer bound by agreements signed with Israel since Israel violates the Oslo Accord and other pacts between the two countries. His firm stance won widespread support from Palestinians. A Palestinian political analyst said that even though Palestine still holds its non-member observer status in the UN, the flag-raising ceremony brings greater influence for the country. And about the Kunduz crisis in Afghanistan, the streets of Kunduz were deserted today after the U.S. military acknowledged it could have been responsible for an airstrike that hit a hospital run by medical aid groups Medicine Sans Frontières, MSF, or Doctors Without Borders. MSF later said that 19 people had been killed by aerial bombardment, and the group said in a statement, all indications currently point to the bombing being carried out by international coalition forces. Fighting has reached around the Afghan provincial capital this week as government forces backed by American air power seek to drive out Taliban militants who seize the city and biggest victory of their nearly 40-year insurgency. A spokesman said in a statement that U.S. forces launched airstrike, frightened and wounded Kunduz residents were seeking help from whenever they could get it. Management agencies say at least 15 people were killed and 41 injured in two suicide bombing attacks in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Two suicide bomb attacks in Nigeria's capital killed at least 15 people and injured 41 others, according to officials. One bomb went off near a police station not far from Abuja's airport, and the other went off in a crowded suburban area. The chief medical director of Koji Hospital said that they started receiving the first casualties in the evening. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the attacks, the first in the city in more than a year. But the use of suicide bombers is the hallmark of Boko Haram militants who have been trying to carve out an Islamic state in the northeast of Nigeria. And now we transfer to the immigration problem in the world. Hungary today urged the formation of a joint EU force to control the borders of Europe under the pressure of the global challenge of mass migration. Foreign Minister Zizar told 193 member states of the United Nations that controlling borders was key to stemming the current floods of refugees. On the last day of the general debate, which started the 7th session at the UN this week, Zizar says that our first and utmost challenge and task is to get back control of our borders. If we cannot get back control over the European borders, then we will not be able to stop the influx of migrants, and then we will be defenseless. The foreign minister recast the movement of refugees mostly from war-torn countries of Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan as a mass migration. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.watankarama.tv. Thanks very much for being with us. My greeting, Rانيا البليدى.
وطن الكرامة، منبر الحق وكرامة الوطن.
افتتح الرئيس الغيني ألفا كوندي الأسبوع الجاري محطة كاليتا للطاقة الكهرومائية التي ستضيف نحو 240 ميجا وات إلى الشبكة الوطنية في بلد تعد إحدى الدول الأقل تطوراً في العالم. ويأمل المسؤولون في غينيا أن تعزز المحطة الجديدة